Welcome to Fanning Out, a podcast where we dig into our fandom. I'm Valerie Gritch, an independent fan studies scholar who wants to share our interests and examine why we feel the way we do about them. Basically, why does that thing matter to you and why should it matter to everyone else too? Let's get into it. This episode, I am joined by Leah. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Leah. I grew up in New Jersey, so that's like a big part of my personality. Uh, and what do? I just say what I'm a big fan of, how
Yeah.
I fan out, what I fan out about.
What do
I
you
am a big
about?
fan of comedy, and I am a big nerd about it, and I love fanning out and yelling about it with people and telling people why their comedy opinions are wrong, that's a big one. Why people's opinions about comedy are wrong. And I like educating people on why comedy is an important art form because it takes a lot of work, and I feel like comedians and stand-ups and people who work in comedy make it look very easy, but it's really really difficult. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, for sure.
So I like teaching people about why it's so important, why it's so hard.
So, how did you get into comedy?
I mean, my parents.
Mhm.
I grew up in a household where education, like being smart, was valued over a lot of things, and so that uh, bled into like all aspects of life. So, like, school was really important growing up, but also like what we consumed. So, like, what books we were reading, what TV or movies we were watching, and like, there's this big I feel like a lot of people growing up, there was this big distinction. Like either you could or you could not watch The Simpsons or like Family Guy, because it was bad, or like it was adult comedy that was being geared towards kids.
Mhm.
And so like in my house, we were only allowed to watch The Simpsons. Family Guy was thought of as like low quality. And
Lowbrow.
like this the reason why my mom really loved The Simpsons so much was because she like that the writers were so educated. They were all from Harvard. They were all a lot of them were. They were this like elite class of thinkers that decided to make a cartoon show. So like she felt like that was the thing that was allowed. And so we I grew up watching The Simpsons, and that like really laid a groundwork for what is funny, what is humor, what is parody, satire. Like that was a huge thing on The Simpsons. Like some of the best episodes, some of the best jokes were based on satire. They were making fun of this like cultural touchstone, and they were doing it like in the smartest and best way possible. And so that's what we were watching in my house. We were watching The Simpsons. I mean, obviously we were watching like Seinfeld. We were watching um, The Nanny. I grew up watching a lot of Jewish things also lended itself in my house. My family is Jewish. I grew up um, uh, in a more observant religious community, and so like seeing Jews in media was like a big thing also. And then I just sort of grew, and I started watching movies that I probably shouldn't have when I was young, but like my parents were like, "Oh, like this will make you smart." So like I watched Animal House at like 12,
Yes.
and like didn't get most of the jokes but understood what they were making fun of, I think. And then obviously as I grew up, so there was a lot of that. So it was SNL, anything that came out of the SNL, machine. Um, it was The Simpsons, which is like a similar but separate sort of vein of Saturday Night Live. It was Mel Brooks, which is like that Jewish early TV stand up. And my family also we went to the Catskills, like that one season of Modern Mrs. Maisel, oh, not Modern Mrs. Maisel, Marvelous Mrs.
Marvelous.
Maisel.
Yeah.
You'll edit this, right? You'll
Yeah.
make me look smart.
It makes me good.
um, so Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, there's that one season where they're up in the mountains and they go like that is I lived a similar life. We would go up in the wintertime. My parents actually went to the mountains into those bungalow colonies as kids. And then when I was a kid, they grew up and my family was ready to go on vacations, that's where we would go to a similar hotel. Um, so that like Borscht Belt Jewish stand-up comedy was like a big thing in my house. And my parents were just sort of like, if you do your homework, you can watch TV. And so I did my homework, and so I got to watch a lot of TV. So I consumed a lot of TV comedy growing up, and that
Mhm.
kind of lended itself to like watching. I would stay up late to watch it. My parents would let me stay up to watch SNL. My parents would let me stay up to watch like I would watch like some late, like I watched Conan. Like I was the only girl at 15 watching Conan and being like, this is amazing. And like now as an adult, like I've listened to all of the Conan podcasts. I've watched all of his specials. I started watching stand up and listening to stand up a lot in high school. And that's sort of where I made that transition to, I mean, I still watch obviously a lot of comedy, but from TV to stand up was sort of like a
Mhm.
high school moment because I learned how to, I had a Walkman, I had an iPod, so I could listen to a full comedy album. So like the first CDs I ever had was like a Britney Spears, not stronger, maybe one more time, maybe,
Mhm.
NSYNC, No Strings Attached, and Mike Birbiglia's Two Drink Mike was his first album. Those were like the first three CDs that I had, and I would just like
I
listen to
love
them on
it.
rotation. Um, and that just sort of like became a huge part of my life, just like listening and going to shows. And it took me 34 years to start thinking about writing stand up. Like I took a stand up class this past year.
Mhm.
Um, and it just sort of like solidified that like I am a lover of consuming comedy. Creating it is so hard. So hard.
What was the class like?
It was actually really cool. It was like a 6 week class, and it was like 2.5, 3 hours long. It was with this really great stand up. Um, Her name is Veronica Mosley. She's incredible. You probably wouldn't. I mean, no, she's a writer. But it was 6 weeks, and every week she gave us like an assignment, like find an article and write about it, or like find something in your life and write about it. She gave us a bunch of prompts, and we basically worked to put together like 5 minutes. And for some people, it was like one 5 minute story. For some people, it was like a bunch of like different types of jokes. It was, those like rim shot, like but jokes.
Mhm.
For some people, it was like wordplay. Like everybody has a different style. So it was really interesting sort of seeing how different people come into comedy. And then sort of seeing the process. Because like having a funny idea and then explaining that funny idea to a room full of people is very difficult to make funny.
Yes.
And so like I went into it like super confident. Like my first class, I like had like a whole bunch of like, oh, like, my mom says things in a really funny way, or like, my friends and I, we joke about this one thing. And then like having to explain why like that's not a joke. That's just like a funny idea. So like that figuring out what's funny, how you tell a joke, like telling a joke, like the mechanics of telling a joke is like it's painful. Like trying to explain to somebody how you have to create the setup, and then you have to make them understand, and then like you have to give them a hook, and then there's a turn, and it's like explaining it is just like this is who would ever do this, and then you like watch some like perfect stand up, and it's just like oh, amazing.
I think that makes the improv that stand up does so much more impressive because
Yeah.
the ability to think on your feet like that is bizarre.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like people will come to stand up from an improv background. Like I had a friend who was doing the class with me, and he had done like 5 levels of improv. Like he'd been to the pit, he'd been to a whole bunch of them. Um and being funny at improv, being fast and like being in the moment and learning how to play with people is a different skill than doing stand up, because doing stand up, like doing improv is like you have to like it's all about being in the moment and like working and being a good team player and like having a quick, fast, funny mind, right? So you can
Yeah.
put two and two together. But improv but then that's improv, and then stand up is like having a concept, finding the nugget of funniness, finding the nugget of truth, finding the nugget of how does this personal interaction make sense to other people, making it relatable, and then making a joke, right? And then telling the story, and then making it feel as if, oh, I was walking down the block today, blah blah blah, and then joke, and it's like, oh, this sounds like you just thought of it, but you've actually been rehearsing each and every word and the placement and the length of the pause. Like we spent a whole class on like pregnant pauses,
Yeah.
because there's some great stand up where half of the joke is in the amount of time that they wait between giving you the punch, giving you the setup, and giving you the joke.
Oh,
And
that's
then the pause between the joke and the follow up and the button.
uh-huh.
Like essays could be written. Like John Mulaney does it all the time, or Mike Birbiglia does it all the time, where there's like a pause, or I mean
Hmm.
anybody, Pete Holmes. I mean, I haven't watched, like, there's the new Kevin Hart roast special, and
Hmm.
like roasts are different, but like there is so much can be done in a 4-second pause.
Hmm.
Like, and you hear it when you watch stand up, when you see, like, they're in radio, and they're these big venues, right? They're in Radio City, they're in, they're at the big Chicago theaters, they're in LA at the Hollywood Bowl. Like, there's something about telling a joke and then waiting for the audience, like a word, something that's like wordplay. Like, you have to give the audience time to figure out what you're trying to say and then figure out why it's funny. Like, I've seen people eat up the pause like too quickly,
Right.
and it's wild. It's wild to me.
I
It's
love
wild, and it's so hard. It's so hard,
it.
and it's a skill that you have to learn, and you have to get good at it, and you have to hone and strengthen that skill so hard. And it's not for the faint of heart, which is why there's so many bad comedians and young comedians who have been like grinding for years and years and years, um, and they like also have day jobs.
Yeah. So how do you fan out beyond watching your television shows and taking classes?
So I mean, that's really, so it's a lot of consumption, honestly, is how
Mm.
I fan out. It's mostly watching, finding, and then sharing. A lot of it is sort of like, this is so funny. I was listening to Ike Barinholtz just put out a new podcast,
Hmm.
um, where it's like the thinnest premise. It's basically, so Ike Barinholtz is one of the many things that he's known for is that he's like a crazy trivia guy. Like, he's been on Celebrity Jeopardy. He's won tons of money for charity, and so he like put together a podcast where he basically just has his friends over, and he asks them what they're interested in, and then he asks them questions,
Hmm.
and then they ask him like Trivial Pursuit questions. And that's the whole podcast. It could be anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And I listened to 2 episodes, and I was laughing out loud. Like, people were staring at me, asking if I was okay. I had that weird like like that weird like gasping laugh because it was so funny. People thought I was having like a panic attack on the side of the road. And I immediately was just like, okay, everybody, new podcast. You all have to listen to it. Like, tell me what you think.
Yeah.
Going to live shows, consuming it live is like the best. It's like similar. I would say it's going to even something that's like a small show, like like I did an open mic show where it's basically like it's like 20 comedians who are just trying to like work on material,
Hmm.
and everybody gets 5 minutes, so everyone is a performer and everyone is the audience, which is great. um and so I went to a couple of those, and that was like super fun. And like half of it was great and half of it was terrible, but you're laughing because you're there and like you're in the moment. And there's something about being at a live show. I
Right.
know people who are like into music, like there's difference between like being at a concert and be listening to the track.
Right.
And so there is something about being at a live comedy show. There's like a vibe in the room. Like everyone's laughing even if it's bad. Like you have to be really, really bad to get no laughs. Like because everybody's just like in a good mood. How else do I fan out? I mean, I share a lot. I go back to old stuff. Um, I just like, sharing. I mean, even something small as like sharing a clipped joke
Mhm.
on TikTok or Instagram. Like even something like that, like especially if it has captions, because nobody wants to like turn their volume on. So
Yeah.
just sharing stuff like that. It's a very um isolating fandom, I want to say a little bit, because like it's your consumption is very personal,
Mhm.
right? Because there's so many different types of comedians, there's so many different types of comedy, and not everybody's sense of humor is the same. So like you tend to find people that you have similar types of comedy jokes with, but sometimes they could be into like, I don't know, what's like an out there comic. I don't know. Somebody could be into like really like manosphere stuff, or someone could be like super into like somebody like Sarah Sherman, who's like super funny. She's on SNL, but her like personal stand-up is very weird.
Mhm.
And like if you're not into that, then you're just not into that. And like that's okay. But there is a subset of people that are super into that. So it's a little hard sometimes to sort of fan out because you kind of do it on your own. But it's nice. It's fun to be in a big room at a show, or even getting up and doing your terrible 5 minutes of dick pic humor, which is what I ended up. This is what I ended up doing. Um, is a great way to sort of like be a part of the culture.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Well, who are some of your favorite comics or favorite television shows or movies and things?
Sure.
You've named
I
some,
mean,
but you could tell us.
yeah. So like low level, like intro to comedy, I would say, is something like The Simpsons, like the first 15, there's like a thousand seasons. And not that newer seasons they're all different. It's like SNL, like it's a new batch of writers, it's always different. It's the same kinds of stories, but it's different. So I would say like a great, like the first like 15 seasons of The Simpsons. And you don't have to go in order. You can pick and choose. There's so many great ones. SNL is sort of like a treasure trove of like real different types of comedy, which is like a really wonderful to have that like plethora, especially because especially in the last few years, there have been so many deep dives into like what makes SNL work. And so much of it is like Lauren, so much of it is the writers, so much of it is like the fact that it's an hour of comedy at 11 o'clock at night and like it's live and no one knows what's happening. So, I mean, you could sort of like go through and pick a host that you enjoy, pick an actor that you love, and just sort of like go through the years on that. I mean, Lonely Island stuff is like super important to like modern comedy and modern TV comedy, honestly, too. Um, what else? I mean, personally, my like TV comedy, like top tier, S tier is like 30 Rock, Parks and Rec. Um, I mean, The Office is a newcomer for me. I was not a part of the like crazy. I'm a big Mike Schur guy, but
Hmm.
not the Office. I was a latecomer to. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at my bookshelf is where I have. Like a secret one is like musical comedy, which is like a dark horse, which is like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Because
Yeah.
musical comedy is one of those things that's like, especially, I mean, there's this great podcast called Off Book, which is musical improv. And so every episode is a fully improvised musical, and it's usually funny. But like what's amazing about it is that it's musical comedy, which is just musical improv, which is just so difficult, right? Like making a song out of nothing,
Mhm.
making it make sense, making it funny. So like something like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which was like a musical comedy, is like that was on TV for so long. That's like wild. I should have made a list. It would have been smart for me to have like really prepared for this. I knew you were going to ask me this question, and I I didn't. Let me think what else. Something even, this is gonna sound crazy, but something like kid shows. There's
Mhm.
something so funny about Clifford the Big Red Dog. I have a younger sister,
Mhm.
and so she's 6 years younger than me. So like when I was like at babysitting age, she was the age to be babysat, right? She was like 3 or 4. I was like 10. Um, and so we would watch a lot of Clifford together. And like I remember laughing at Clifford as like a tween, and
Yeah,
she's laughing at like so realizing that like children's shows are written by adults
right.
for kids, but also really for the adults that they're watching with.
Absolutely.
So like something like what did I just go see that was so I just saw the new Super Mario movie.
Oh, okay. How
It
was it?
was so it was fine.
Yeah.
It's an unnecessary sequel to an unnecessary original.
Mhm.
But it was really funny. Like or something like Minecraft. Maybe it's just Jack Black. That could also be it. So something like School of Rock, that's like that was a huge musical comedy quotable. There's something also to say about comedies that like with like a quotability to them. So something like Anchorman, like when we were in high school, right? Like everybody was quoting Anchorman. I just watched Anchorman. I watched the second one with my sisters recently. It's so funny.
Mhm.
It's so absurd. Anything that Judd Apatow, Adam McKay, um, what's his name? Who I'm forgetting right now. Who does like Righteous Gemstones and Eastbound and Down, Danny McBride.
Yeah.
So any of those, like there's like a cohort of like guys who like were like all in comedy in like the early 2000s who have gone on to create these like crazy, I don't want to say franchises, but like name no, name brand things, and there's something so different. So like something like a Judd Apatow movie has like a certain sauce, and then something like a Danny McBride, so that's like Eastbound and Down, Vice Principals, Righteous Gemstones. There's something so crazy about his comedy that's different from the Judd Apatow and the like even something even like the early like Mike Nichols, Rob Reiner comedy of like our parents'
Mhm.
adulthood. Like there's just something so distinctly different about that comedy that speaks to everyone and is so funny and is so full of joy, that you just want to sit and share it with people, right? Like those kinds of movies are movies that you want to watch with people. Like Anchorman, like you sat around watching it with friends. Borat, you watched it with friends. Forgetting Sarah Marshall, like I just did that. I just did a movie night with a bunch of friends and we watched Forgetting Sarah Marshall. It was just like so funny and silly and wonderful. Because it makes you feel good, makes
Yeah.
you laugh, it makes you cry. Um,
It's also fun to watch
yeah,
your people enjoy something.
right. There's nothing more like revealing about a friendship when you like have when you're watching a friend watch a thing that you think is hilarious that you've sent to them, and like you're
Yeah.
watching their face and you're just like, are they gonna think it's funny? Are they gonna laugh? Wait, they haven't laughed yet. That was a funny line. Why aren't they? And then you have to like,
Yeah.
there's nothing more like exciting and nerve wracking than like
Absolutely.
sharing a funny video with somebody.
It is the like peak nerve-wracking moment.
Yeah. What about you? What kind of comedy do you consume, Mel?
I consume a lot of British comedy.
Yes. Oh, I have
Yeah, I
that
have
is
in
that I'm a newcomer to
childhood.
that
Yeah.
also.
I grew up with our PBS station on Friday nights having the Britcom British sitcom evenings. Um,
Sure.
so we had a lot of the classics like Are You Being Served and Keeping Up Appearances and
Sure.
Monty Python and my favorite show is Red Dwarf, which is very niche and British people it's been on forever. So British people know it and they're just like, "Oh yeah, Red Dwarf." And when people acknowledge it exists to me, I become a monster because nobody in my life knows Red Dwarf. Nobody my age knows Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, "Please talk to me about this thing." and become possessed by demons and scare them away. But yeah, we really grew up in an Anglophile house, and comedy was a really big part of that. And so
Yeah.
getting older, um, and finding the early 2000s British comedians and people like David Mitchell, who my dog is now named after, and like that whole cohort of comedians and the panel shows and
The panel
the
shows. I
comedy
remember
shows the
in
British do
like,
are unlike
yeah,
anything.
like we became friendly, like was it like late high school, early
Yeah,
college?
yeah, for sure.
And like that was my intro to the chat shows and the panel stuff and like the plethora of absurd British comedy that like I did not know existed. I
Yeah,
feel like also with a lot of fanning out when it comes to comedy, a lot of it is either informed by what your parents watch or what your parents don't watch.
yeah,
So like if you grow up in a house that is like, mainlining a lot of British comedy, then you're gonna like watch a ton of British comedy, and that's gonna inform a lot of your, the way that you enjoy comedy. But if you are like explicitly told that you can't watch something, then like sometimes you'll like
you'll
sneak out
rebel.
and like
Yeah.
find it in other places. And so that will inform your comedy. So like your parents are kind of like giving it to you anyway because they're telling you not to watch it.
Mhm.
But like we didn't do a lot of Monty Python in my house, but I had friends who did Monty Python who were like big into Monty Python. So like I would, I remember for like a talent show, this friend wanted to like recreate the parrot sketch.
Yeah.
And we thought it was hilarious, and nobody else understood how like it's a dead parrot. No, like you don't understand.
Don't understand.
Like you don't understand. And
Yeah.
it was just like it was so divisive. It was so
It
divisive.
really is. And like, um, to build on Monty Python, in high school, took a Spanish class, and there you would get extra credit if you showed up early and you wrote something on the board in Spanish and if it was accurate. And they had a
Sure.
sketch about llamas, and they're saying like the most insane shit that is technically true about llamas, like llamas are larger than frogs, like be careful
Sure.
about llamas, like they might kick you, things like that. And I memorized the song, and every day I would go and write a different lyric from the song, and my teacher hated Monty Python, but she had to give me the extra credit because technically my Spanish was correct and the statements were true. And that's such like a lasting weird memory of Monty Python in my life, of tormenting my
Yeah.
Spanish teacher with it. Because
That's
it
so
is
funny.
such a evocative kind of comedy that either you get,
Yeah.
you love, or you hate it. And there's like,
Yeah. It's either you love it or it's so divisive
yeah,
too. Like when we were like, I feel like there've been a couple of like ebbs and flows of like big comedy stuff. I mean, it happens all the time and everyone's constantly going through, but there was like different genres of stand when it comes to stand up. And like when we were in high school, the like Quiet Boy, Dimitri Martin,
hmm,
Mitch Hedberg, like that kind of like
yeah,
quiet, like 1-2 punch, real serious jokes. Um, were like really really big, and that kind of and then there was like a huge wave of like female comedian, like young hot female comedians, and then that kind of blended, and then that went all the way to like somebody like Amy Schumer, who's like yelling at everybody and like talking about her vagina and like doesn't give a shit, and like that's okay, and like and that was not everyone's cup of tea, but like she was like the hot girl. um but now we have like Ali Wong, and we have, what's her name, who just got a bunch of work done, and that's all I can ever see on her face. Not that like getting work done is bad, but I can never remember her name because she looks just like Chelsea Handler. I'm gonna forget. I'm never gonna remember. I'm so bad with names.
so am I.
Um, and so now there's just now there's so much comedy with TikTok. I mean, everyone's on TikTok now. There's like just
Yeah,
so much, and because the way that we share funny things have gotten easier and quicker and better. There's just so many different types of people doing comedy. There's so many different types of comedy. You can be like super niche,
Yeah.
like growing up Jewish, growing up Jewish and being somewhat religious. Um, like there were all these Jewish comedians. They would always like make jokes about being Jewish, and they weren't always right. But like
Mhm.
everyone's experience with Judaism is different. But now there's like a couple of like religious comedians who are like somewhat famous on TikTok and talk about like jokes from like my private, high school, or like from going to services in synagogue, like jokes that are only funny to like 10 people that
Right.
are in the room with you. But now he's on TikTok and he has 50 million followers
Mhm.
because there's 10 people in a room in a bunch of different places all over the country, all over the world.
Right.
And so they all get that joke about like, being late to services or whatever it is. Um, and like, so it's kind of great that like anyone could be a comedian, but it's also bad because now anyone can be a comedian.
Yeah. It's also really interesting, like the styles of comedy, I think. Like I was
Yeah.
just watching the new season of Last One Laughing UK,
Mm-hmm.
and um which was fantastic, but it really makes you notice like this person is more deadpan, this person's more in your face, this person's more vulgar, this one's really sneaky, this one's really surrealist, and you're
I
like,
feel like you see it more in British comedy
yeah.
because I think it also has to do something with with an accent.
Hmm.
Like because there's so many more different types of accents in such a small place.
Yeah.
You get so many types of comedians from such a small spot. It's so interesting.
Hmm.
um, but yeah, you don't always have that wide a range with American comedy. I feel like there's like five or six like very distinct types in
Hmm.
American comedy, but when it comes to like British humor is so different. And that's actually honestly one of the things that I've loved about watching SNL UK. Have you watched any of the
I
episodes?
haven't yet. I intend to catch up because I've heard
Do
that it's
yourself a favor, because one of the really wonderful things about it, like not the fact that it exists, 'cause, like it's so nice that it exists,
Mhm.
but one of the things, like when I heard that it was happening, was like I was kind of worried that it was just going to be like SNL in London, in England,
Mhm.
but it's not. It is quintessentially British, which is
That's nice.
so nice.
Yeah.
Um, they're not doing like American skits with a British accent. They're taking like some high concept British humor. They're using British comedic politicians. I mean, obviously it's British writers, but it's really like British things, English things that are happening in England, which is so, and they're making fun of it, which is so great. And like I love that I don't understand half of the joke, but
Mhm.
I understand that it's funny and I get what they're trying to do and I love
Yeah.
it so much. So that's why I'm also like I love talking about that because I think that is also it's so difficult, and that's why I'm sure why it took 50 years to make it,
Yeah.
right? Like they could have done there have been like so many like SNLs in other places,
Mhm.
but to have it be like a real coming out of the SNL offices, it's really really good. Yeah, they've gotten some really great hosts um to to help anchor a lot of the episodes, but the cast is super strong too, which is really great. And it's like and some of them you'll know from just like one of them, this one girl, I can't remember her name, but she was on this show called The Windsors.
Mhm.
um, it's like a mockumentary kind of show about the royal family, but she plays one of Fergie's daughters. And I recognized her, and I was like, oh, so great that she's doing something else because
Yeah.
that show was so funny. It was so great. Um, so I think it's really great. I love it so much. I've been really enjoying watching the different episodes. So yeah, you should
I think it's
definitely
really
watch it.
refreshing as well that they were able to take it and make it British and
Yeah.
not copy it because the inverse is so often a
Yes.
failure when they're taking a successful British comedy and trying to Americanize it, and it just
Yeah.
like, completely flops and fails. And you see it happen so many times. And like I like Taskmaster is one of my favorite television shows, and the American
Can't
version was
believe that they couldn't
horrible.
make Taskmaster work. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it.
Well, they also drastically cut the time and the format of it to fit it into a half-hour section, and then
Right.
with commercials you barely have any time for any of the like
Well, that's the thing I just realized watching. I was just watching I think the episode from last week, the SNL UK episode. One of the things that I didn't even think about was that because UK TV doesn't have commercial breaks,
Mhm.
or most European TV doesn't have commercial breaks, there's no time in between sketches to change, to
Oh
do a
wow.
costume change. So I thought it was just so silly. Like there have been a couple of times where the dresser will grab the host from a sketch, and then on camera they'll bring them to where the musical guest is performing, and they'll just like be in their costume, and they'll have the mic and they'll introduce them. I thought that was so cute, but in my head, because they do it on for like I'm watching it on Peacock, they put the commercial breaks in because some subscribers do Peacock with commercials.
Yeah.
But in on real British TV, there are no commercials. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, they have to build the set for the night, or they have to build how the sketches are going. They have to build in time. So between every live sketch, there has to be, you know, a pre-tape, or like half
Mhm.
of the cast is doing something else. Like they have, and like so that's a thing that as the American team never had to worry about, because there's always breaks.
Right.
And so in my mind, so I like literally like the season is over. I just caught it like last night when I was
Yeah.
watching the last episode. I was like, oh, there's no time in between sketches. It
Yeah.
goes boom, 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 boom. I was just like, whoa. So even that, something like that is just like heightening
Mhm.
everything, and it just makes it better when everything works. So that's been really wonderful to watch, and like fanning out a little bit about that is sort of like who's watching it, who likes it, who doesn't like it. Tell me your critiques. Like, what are your thoughts? How can they make it better? Because it's just all throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
Um, which is so scary and so fun and exciting.
So how does comedy overall differ from your other interests?
Um, I think it's one of those things that I've just allowed to just fully consume my life.
Mhm.
Um,
Which is always a good thing.
yeah, I mean, living a life that's full of jokes. I mean, I remember when I was younger and just sort of like everything was a joke, nothing was serious. It like wasn't great.
Right.
I was just like I was making fun of everything. I didn't take anything seriously. Like everything was a joke. Everything was like an opportunity to like make a joke, make a bit, do a bit, whatever. And that wasn't great. So that was, figuring out sort of like how to be serious, but also be funny. Like
Mhm.
being funny is hard.
Right.
And so like having to actively, like you want it to feel natural, which is like one of the things about stand up that I've come to learn is the balancing act, is
Mhm.
like making something sound funny but also fresh and off the cuff is different than like being funny, like living a life that's full of humor.
Yeah.
Because not everything is funny, and um not every moment is a moment for jokes, but most of them
Mhm.
should be nice, should be fun. So like, you know uh the idiom is like trauma plus time equals comedy.
Yeah.
Um, and so, or pain plus time is comedy. And so it's sort of like living a life that absorbs all of the things, and trying to find the silver lining of it is usually where you can find the comedy, right? It's like, oh, I lost my job. I don't have any health insurance, but I do have time to take 4-hour walks in the park, and the sun does heal me. So that's nice.
Yeah. Get that vitamin D.
Get that vitamin D any way you can. And so it's just sort of like it's different because it's the thing that always brings me joy.
Hmm.
And I know that like if I just need like a quick hit, I can, watch a little something or remember or read something. Listen, I mean, the joy of the comedy podcast has been like a great way to like get through a commute or like get through a tough
Right.
time. Things like, I mean, something for me that I have found such profound comedy in is the Seth Meyers and the Lonely Island podcast, because that stretch of time when they were doing the digital shorts.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't know if you listen to it. It's a great podcast. If you're interested in SNL or if you're interested in like the Lonely Island guys, they do these deep dives into how they made all of their shorts. But what's so interesting about it, and like what I think a lot of people who are like into comedy enjoy, which is one of the reasons why I really love this podcast and something like Mike Birbiglia's podcast, also working it out, is that like they literally go step by step and talk about how they made, I'm on a boat, right? Like what the process was of like making the song and then like making the music video and like how crazy would it be to do a thing with T-Pain and like we're singing a song about being on a boat,
Right.
right? Like that is not funny. It is not inherently funny being on a boat. But they literally have created an anthem for anyone who is ever on a boat,
Right.
right? With your swim trunks and your flippy floppies. Like that's everyone knows that. And like so much so that like they were talking about it. So this is like such inside baseball. Yorma, who's one of the Lonely Island guys, is a director. He's done a bunch of really great movies. He has a new movie that he's been promoting, and he was talking about how during the shooting of this movie, they were on a boat and they had to cut a line that one of the characters said, "I'm on a boat," like made a reference to "I'm on a boat," because they didn't want people to like be taken out of the story,
Right.
that it's like and I was just like, this is such like, who thinks about this? But this is what they talk about. And so what's really great is like they talk about not just making the show, not just making the shorts, but also like making the show and like being on SNL at that time and like being young and living in the city and like being famous for making funny things and like how it's good and how it's bad and like how they were so famous on SNL. They like revolutionized digital video shareability, right? Like YouTube became a thing because of them.
Hmm.
And the two movies that they made were terrible. I mean, they're not, they're great movies, but they did terribly.
Right. They're cult
And it's
classics.
like, right. And there's so many SNL movies that have done poorly, even though the people that made them are hilarious. The concepts and the movies themselves were great, but they were just like not critical successes. And so they
Hmm.
just did poorly. But like a movie like Hot Rod or Pop Star, like those are great movies.
Right.
So funny and like so quotable. And like to a select group of people, they are like the best.
Hmm.
And I think that that's the thing about comedy. It's so personal. And so being a fan of comedy makes you part of a very large crowd, but also part of a very small crowd. Because like you could be the like one of the 150 people who like went to this one comedian show and that was their last show ever and they became a investment banker, but you still quote something from that show that you went to go see. Like I still have verbal tics from Mike Birbiglia's first album that I listened to on repeat in high school. I still use them today, and to like three friends, and to those three friends, they're the funniest thing they've ever heard. And if I pull them out at the right time, like it's killer. But to most people, it's just a group of words, which is I
Yeah, my
think,
my brother and I still have verbal tics from like Drake and Josh. Like,
yeah,
and
oh yeah,
we'll whip it out almost daily, and no one knows
yeah,
what the hell we're talking about. But
yeah.
to us, it is the funniest joke
It's
that
the
there could be.
funniest thing. It's the funniest thing. And I think it just sort of like speaks to like who you were at that time, who you were with at that time. And that's like one of the things, like that's something about like comedy that I like one of the being a fan of comedy allows me to be a fan of so many different things, right? Like,
Mhm.
you know, I'm a fan of British comedy. I'm a fan of like Wet Hot American Summer, like David Wayne, Michael Showalter. That's like super niche. I'm a fan of like Judd Apatow, which is like for a long time was like very bro-y, like not a lot of girls. I'm a huge fan of like Danny McBride, like Righteous Gemstones. If you've never seen it, like do yourself a
Haven't.
favor, watch it. It is 4 seasons of some of the most absurd storytelling, but it is so emotional. Like you laugh and you cry. Like it's one of those things. Like it's about like an evangelical church in the middle of the South, and it's Adam Devine and John Goodman and Danny McBride and Judy, what's her name? Not Judy. I can never remember her name. There's a sister, and it's Walter Goggins, and it's so many people who have these spot little things. But if you've never heard of Righteous Gemstones, if you've never seen it, Uncle Baby Billy's Bible Bunkers means nothing to you, but it is to some people. It is like it's a high note. Uncle Baby Billy's Bible Bunkers. You'll get it. Watch it. Um, but then there's a whole other side of comedy that I'm not into, right? Like
Mhm.
there's like the Sarah Sherman, like the weird out, gross out comedy. I'm not really into that. There's like a lot of like super broy like male comedy that I'm not into. There's like some dumb comedy or like some dumb comedy that I'm not into. It not for any particular reason. It's just not what I'm into.
Mhm.
And it's not good or bad. It's not better or worse. It's just different. And you know, there are, I'm sure, a gajillion comedians that I've never heard of that are selling out, laugh factories and stadiums and theaters all over in other parts of the country that I've just never heard of. And like, that's the beautiful thing. There's always new stuff. There's always someone to watch. Um, I was watching someone recently and like I've watched them become famous. Who was I watching? Oh, somebody like um somebody like Jeremy Colhane, who's currently on SNL. I watched him on Dropout, which is like a streaming service that like what used to be College Humor and is now its own streaming service. But like I watched him on these like tiny little like 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 game shows. Like that's what Dropout does. They do a lot of these different game shows. And I was like, "Oh, he's so funny." And like I kept watching him and he kept popping up and then all of a sudden he's on Saturday Night Live and he is killing it on Saturday Night Live. But like for a lot of people, they've never heard of him before.
Right.
But like for some people, he has achieved greatness. He's gone through the LA, he's gone through the ringer. He did the LA scene. He got onto like it's like he did like he has achieved greatness. To other people, he's just like he's a new guy. And that happens all the time on SNL, on any of these shows. Um, yeah, it's changed. I don't know. It's different. But it's one of those vices that I have allowed into every part of my life because it makes my life better. So.
I love that though. There's nothing wrong with having joy, right?
No, no, never.
So, what comedians would you recommend our listeners
Oh,
or podcasts or
sure, sure. So again, these are all very personal. My particular type of comedian that I enjoy listening to are they're storytellers. So
Mhm.
there's a difference, right? There's I don't know if you remember, like there's lots of different types of comedy, right? There's quick jokes. There's jokes that have like a quick turn or like a double turn. There are storytellers, right? So those are the types of comedians that I enjoy. So somebody like Mike Birbiglia, he's got like 4 specials on Netflix. Watch them all. I've seen almost all of them live. They're all great and different. Um, Pete Holmes is super fun. He's got a really interesting story. He's a talker also, as I'm sure
Mhm.
you. can tell from my enjoyment of him. So he's a good one. Moshe Kasher is one of the funniest people in the world. Um, he's got just like a really interesting story, just generally. So like I really love listening to him. Who else? Chris Gethard's always a great one. There's a lot of these people have podcasts, so like they're easy to catch.
Hmm.
John Mulaney. I mean, for everything that John Mulaney has gone through, he's still churned out some of the best stand-up specials, but also some of the best characters and just some of the best stand-up. I've really been enjoying Robbie Hoffman recently. It could be that she's just like a Jewish celebrity, so I just really love her. But I just think she's so weird and funny. She's
Hmm.
just like she's super to the point. Like she just like doesn't beat around the bush, so she's just like super great. Kumail's recent special was really good. His Hulu night thoughts was really good. And what's great about him is that this is how he opens his set, but he talks about how he used to be a comedian and then he became an actor and now he's a comedian again. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're doing comedy?" He's like, "This is how I started."
Yeah.
So like I used to listen to him and Jonah Ray. They used to do a show called The Meltdown in LA that they would like made a podcast into. So I used to listen to them all the time. So he's somebody great. I don't know. There's no women on that list, and I know that, and I feel that. Oh, I guess Robbie Hoffman's on that list. I'm trying to think who else. Not a comedian, but I've just been enjoying listening to him on things. Nick Offerman's been promoting a new book recently, and he's in a new movie. He's just like
He's
so easily funny without being a comedian. Like he could do stand up,
Mhm.
and I've seen him do stand up, but he's just so thoughtful and funny
Yeah.
easily, easily. I mean, Amy Poehler's podcast is just a joy to listen to because she makes everything funny.
Hmm.
Uh, what else? I listen to a lot of I listen to a lot of podcasts. That's where I consume a lot of my content. That Ike Barinholtz's new podcast, the Lonely Island Seth Meyers podcast. That's just like a treasure trove of just in jokes, and it's people having a good time. And when you can see that, it makes everything you listen to better.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
they talk about how things get made, right? Like Amy Poehler talks about a lot, like how you got. That's a lot of her podcast is like how do you get into things. The Seth Meyers Lonely Island podcast is like how did this thing become, dick in a box or whatever. Um, so I enjoy that. Yeah, Pete Holmes's podcast is like that too. You Made It Weird. That's a good one. Yeah. So a lot of podcasts. Brett Goldstein has a good podcast too. Sorry, it's a lot of podcasts.
That's fine. We're on one now.
I know. I know. So what kind of comedy do you listen? How do you consume your comedy these days?
I mostly consume my comedy through Taskmaster. Um,
Taskmaster.
and if a comedian is on Taskmaster, I will then seek them out um in other forms. So
Mm.
we've my brother and I have seen a number of comedians live doing stand up because we first saw them on Taskmaster and we're like, remember Dragon Nathan was really funny on Taskmaster and he's coming to New York. Let's go see him. James Acaster was really
Yeah,
see him.
that's how I was lucky enough to go to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival a few years ago,
Hmm.
2 summers ago, and that's how we picked what shows we went to go see. It was like, who do we know from Taskmaster,
Yeah.
or who do we know from a chat show or a panel show that we can go? Like, I still watch Big Fat Quiz of the Year
Yeah,
every
same.
January. I that must have been a you thing. So you must have shown Hindi that.
Or we might have both
Or
found it
she showed it to you. I
independently.
don't know, you've had it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when I was consuming. I mean, I still watch a lot of Graham Norton. I
Hmm.
watch. My sister got me into Last One Laughing. That
Yeah.
was a fun stretch. Taskmaster. I mean, last series with Jason Mantzoukas. I mean,
Incredible.
that was killer,
Jason,
killer.
biggest love of my life.
Yeah, love of everyone's
Yeah.
life. Like literally on my dating profiles, it says weird thing you're into, and I put Jason Mantzoukas because
Excellent.
like you have to know, you have to
Yeah,
know. But even him, like I watch and listen to things because of him.
right.
He's what I mean. I
So you
watch
enjoy
his
it when you see that one of the people that you already enjoy.
right,
And you're
right,
like,
exactly.
I'm already invested, let's go.
Exactly, exactly. And I know that whatever he's talking about, it's going to be funny because he only talks about, I mean, he lives his life in a funny way. So,
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. And
yeah.
I think pulling from these comedy shows, these panel shows, is the main way at the moment that I'm consuming it. Just, seeing, David Mitchell has a new sitcom coming out. It might not be
Yeah.
really comedy geared, but I'm still going to watch it. And there will be little comedic moments. Or um, there was a British comedy dramedy medical show called Doc Martin that got rebooted American style and actually was really good,
Oh,
for a
yeah.
change. Um, and it stars Josh Charles, who I think is hilarious. And he's done a bunch of drunk history episodes, and every time he was in a drunk history episode, I was like, I'm obsessed with you. Um, and he was great in Doc Martin being really dry and like droll and things like that in this role. Um, so just like finding my people and following them to their projects, is
Yeah.
consume them.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. It's always a letdown, though, sometimes when you like do that and then the show is not, or the thing that you're watching, like they're the best part of what you're watching. And so it's like, oh,
Or
well.
maybe their thing is also not for you. Like I
Yeah.
love Bob Mortimer as a person, and whatever I loved him on Taskmaster. I love him whenever he's on Would I Lie to You. I loved him in Last One Laughing. I've seen bits of his stand up, and I love that. And then famously had a show called Mortimer and Reeves. He was part of a comedy duo, and my brother and I watched it, and we're like, "This is not for us," and that's okay. Not everything is for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing to take away is like, not every like Gallagher is not for everybody,
Mhm.
right? Like not every thing is for everyone, and so like it's okay to not like certain things or to really like a very specific thing. And I
Right.
think that's like the beauty of, I mean, that's the beauty of being a fan, I think, of anything, right? Like it speaks to you, so you're a fan of it, and that's what's great. But yeah, comedy is like one of those, it's a big tent pole in like growing up, in my life, in my friendships. We are always like committing to the bit is like rule
Yeah.
number one
Commit
of
to the bit.
life.
Always do a yes and.
It's always yes and, always yes and. Sometimes it can be no but it's usually yes and.
Yeah. That just makes me think of Jason Mantzoukas on Taskmaster
Oh
trying to get out.
yeah. I mean,
Comedy's about yes and.
his whole thing of like just creating like just do being unequivocally American and just causing chaos wherever he, and that's his shtick, right? Like you can see it like in all of his characters. Like there's only like one or two things where he doesn't play himself, uh, and uh, but everything else is just chaos monster.
Yeah.
It's always full commitment to the bit, right? Like I mean, like Rafi on The League, to Derek on The Good Place, to like all of like his little bit parts. He's been in so many. He's done so many small parts in so many bigger things. Um, to just his pure commitment. Like he has this thing where he only wears a white button down and medium wash jeans.
Yeah.
So all
His
he ever
uniform.
wears on camera, ever, ever, and that's his uniform.
Yeah.
It's full commitment. That's all he ever wears, and it's wonderful. I
And
love it.
damn good doing it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. If
It's
you're
so
interested
great.
in Saturday Night Live, there's a great Saturday Night Live book. It's literally called Live from New York. It's been
Mhm,
like redone a couple of times. It's a great book to read if you're interested in like the history of Saturday Night Live. There's also a great Lorne bio book that just came out.
mhm.
Um, that was just like, as someone who's been consuming Saturday Night Live for years, it was really cool to sort of see like a little bit into Lauren's mind because this person, the biographer, like spent a lot of time with him and like talked to his family and his friends and like the real like his real friends, not like a Paul McCartney or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a really great one. And then honestly, if there's a comedian that you love and they've written a book, read the book, right? Like I have Amy Poehler's book, I have Tina Fey's book, I have Rachel Bloom's book, I have Neil Patrick Harris's book, I have Chris Gethard's book. There's like a whole bunch of stuff. And then like just start watching. Like don't knock until you try it. You never know what you're gonna like. And like you're allowed to like different things. So like comedy is not a monolith, right?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
many things are funny to so many people, right? Like there's a reason why like The Simpsons was able to do like a streetcar named Desire parody and a never ending joke of Sideshow Bob stepping on rakes. Like there's a reason because people love both of those things.
Mhm.
So just consume, eat it up, and then tell your friends about it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Leah, for talking with me today. I hope you had
Thank you.
fun. I had a
I
lot of
hope
fun.
any part of this is useful.
It is all useful, my dear. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.